Right now on the National Weather Desk, a double dose of Debby. The tropical storm makes landfall for a second time overnight, leading to more flooding and tornadoes. We have team coverage across the region.
A lot of flash flooding in the area.
The school is severely damaged from the front of the school to the middle of the school as well.
We'll also explain why Debby's path is so unusual.
Well, this all has to do with the jet stream or the wind direction in the upper atmosphere.
And look into the research that's being done on slow-moving tropical systems like Debby.
More rainfall in a warming atmosphere anyway.
We'll head out west to check on the fight against the park fire and some very concerning news about the future of the Great Barrier Reef.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. Tropical storm Debby made its second landfall overnight about 20 miles north of Charleston, South Carolina. Right now, the storm is packing sustained winds of 45 miles per hour, but the wind isn't the headline for the storm. It's the copious amounts of rain Debby has already produced, over a foot in some areas, and more is on the way for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Communities across the Carolinas are already flooded and could see another 4 to 6 inches of rain today. There's also a continued threat of tornadoes along the East Coast. Overnight, Debby spawned several twisters in North Carolina. One damaged a school, another damaged at least 10 homes. Meteorologist AJ Mastrangelo is tracking Debby for us this morning.
You can see here Debby's track, it has deviated quite a bit from what we were thinking earlier this week. This is back from Tuesday. You can see the track was closer to Providence, but it did shift yesterday, and we're seeing kind of that similar track today from the National Hurricane Center. Latest advisory, 50-mile-per-hour winds with the storm, and it has expanded its wind field. And we'll still have that tornado threat. We did see one tornado yesterday down towards the south. Today it'll be eastern North Carolina into Virginia, and then eventually even up into parts of Connecticut could be seeing that elevated tornado risk. Flash flood risk, 4 to 8, 3 to 6 inches of rainfall as Debby continues to weaken and encounter more friction. It won't have quite as much energy, but still could be seeing a bit of some flooding rain throughout parts of the northeastern United States. Large swells expected as well near shore, 5 to 8 foot waves. Gale watch is issued there for the Cape and the islands. The outerlying areas could be seeing waves as high as 12 feet as we head over these next 36 hours.
Our team of reporters is covering the storm from all angles this morning. Let's start with Andrew McClung, who is at the school that was hit by a tornado in North Carolina.
The school is severely damaged from the front of the school to the middle of the school as well. I mean, part of the roof torn off right there. It's kind of hard to see a little up close, but I mean, it is from there to the front of the school as well. And again, I mean, you can see, I mean, this school took some severe damage from, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet. I've been driving out to the scene, but I mean, it is flooded roads here in the Wilson County area as well. The road is blocked off as well. You cannot drive through this area unless you live in the area right now. As I'll turn over this way, you can kind of see the Wilson County deputy right there blocking the roadway. The road is closed. We're hearing reports of other homes damaged as well. It's still a very active situation here.
This is something that's popped up since we've been out here. Look at this flash flooding. Look at these cars coming through this road. This road is getting to be pretty flooded now from all of this torrential rain that we've been seeing this morning. It really hasn't let up. It's been continuously raining this whole time that we've been out here since about 4:45 this morning. And like I said, this whole pond ditch area was almost completely dry a couple of hours ago. Now I'm going to have you zoom in towards the road. You can see it running across the road and then down into this ditch on the other side as well. So we've been talking about flash flooding, and this is one of the perfect examples of this. Is yes, you can still see that double yellow line, but there is still a lot of water on that road. Conditions are changing fairly quickly out here. As I said, we've still got the down power lines on this side. We've got the flooding on this side.
That SCDOT has blocked off right now because of this incredibly large sinkhole that's behind me. I want you to take a look at what they have going on because it is just unlike anything I have personally ever seen before. The sinkhole's got to be at least a few feet wide as well as a few feet deep. Now, SCDOT, they've got trucks on either side of the road, barricades on either side of the road, and are directing traffic to take other routes because Romney Street, like I said, is closed down. Now, something interesting to note about how wide this area is that's blocked off. If you can see some of these cracks on the road alongside where the sinkhole is, that has the possibility for spreading wider, and that is why DOT has this large portion blocked off.
Portions of Florida are still struggling to dry out after heavy rain from Tropical Storm Debby fell earlier in the week. Some areas saw as much as 19 inches of rainfall, damaging homes and businesses. Residents who evacuated are now returning to their homes and wondering how long the water is going to stick around.
We don't know where it's going. Do you know where it's going? I don't know where this water is going.
It's going down very slowly, so it's going somewhere.
I've been marking our driveway with my 3-year-old sidewalk chalk.
There's nowhere for it to go, and it's just like sitting still, standing water.
Officials say that damage assessments are continuing in the area. What determines the path of a tropical system takes, and why has Debby lingered in the same area for so long? Meteorologist Violet Skybor explains.
Well, this all has to do with the jet stream or the wind direction in the upper atmosphere. So first, let's explain why the winds move the way they do. Of course, we know when we look at the Earth, we have the equator, 30 degrees north, and south of there is where the trade winds lie. The trade winds go towards the equator below 30 degrees and towards the poles above 30 degrees. And of course, the United States sits right in between those. So the trade winds are pushing towards the equator, but further north of that, we have northerly winds. So we have a subtropical jet stream and a polar jet stream that normally wobble a little bit depending on our weather systems that move from west to east across them. However, it's not always a direct west to east flow, and that's exactly what we're seeing with Debby. Right now, Debby is sitting off the east coast of South Carolina, and it's been stuck in place because of high pressure. That's causing a kink in our jet stream and keeping Debby to the south in the same spot. Here's what changes. High pressure heads out to sea and low pressure moves in from the west. That'll change that kink in our jet stream and cause Debby to shoot very rapidly up from South Carolina along the east coast. Not only that, but the reason why Debby's maintaining strength is because we have very warm sea surface temperatures. You can see extending out to the South Carolina coast. And that's what's feeding this system before it makes its way inland and up to the northeast.
Folks along South Carolina's Edisto River are used to flooding, but it's nothing new for longtime residents, and many have found ways to outwit the water. Scott Eisberg reports.
There's a love, a pride for Givens, an incomparable tie to the Edisto River that runs through it. Kirk Rosie has lived it, lived on it, felt it for 38 years.
They couldn't pry me out of here. I love it here. Yeah, and our road's the most famous for floods.
Shad Lane, stunningly beautiful. So many memories rooted here, rooted on the river, starting at the start for him.
When I built this house, I was in a flood. So we've learned over the years, and you see I built a deck in the middle there with a ramp where you can actually drive the vehicles up there, the lawnmowers, get everything 3-4 feet above the ground.
Savvy to the savage nature of a rising river.
As soon as that swamp fills up and the water starts coming to the road, that's when we vacate.
But for those unable or unwilling to stay, unwell and needing of assistance, the Dorchester County Sheriff's being proactive.
We're not forcing them to leave, but making them to, aware of the ability of for the threat in terms of harm to them.
With weekend cresting expected, not nearly there yet.
Well, a week ago it was knee deep.
Wow.
Now it's probably 12 feet.
12 feet?
Yeah.
One scientist calls it the canary in the coal mine in terms of climate change. Researchers say ocean temperatures in Australia's Great Barrier Reef hit their highest level in 400 years over the past decade. During that time, the world's largest coral reef ecosystem suffered mass coral bleaching events. That happens when the water gets too hot, leading some coral to die. By analyzing coral skeleton samples, the researchers found temperatures were largely stable before 1900, but have warmed since 1960. They say 70 to 90% of the world's corals could now be threatened. And for the latest and most up-to-date weather headlines, be sure to check us out on the social media. Just search the National Weather Desk on all your favorite platforms. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll head to California to see how firefighters are using several aircraft to battle the massive park fire. And we'll find out why whitefish populations are declining in the Great Lakes.
I'm meteorologist Ryan Munn with a look at the Northeast. As we head through the day on Thursday, we are going to see clouds increase in the mid-Atlantic and eventually moving on up towards the north, as we will see moisture from post-tropical storm Debby down to the south. This is going to eventually bring moderate to heavy rainfall throughout a good part of the Northeast as we head through the day on Friday, and that is going to continue into the day Saturday as well. We're looking at high temperatures today topping out in the 70s.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Your Thursday is going to be another wet one. Scattered showers out ahead of tropical moisture that's arriving, courtesy of the remnants of Tropical Storm Debby. The remnants of Debby will arrive to the region as we move into Friday, bringing a lot of widespread rainfall, even a tornado threat. We will see some flooding potential, but much cooler air coming in with that system. Highs will only be in the 80s for your Thursday afternoon and again on Friday.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Here's a look at your forecast for the highs today. We're looking at 90s in Nashville, 91 degrees with sunshine. Birmingham, 92 degrees, nice and sunny. 97 in Macon and Pensacola. 98 in Mobile. A lot of hot temperatures here, but where's cooler is where the clouds are associated with Debby. Tropical Storm Debby will continue to move north. We're looking at those temperatures in the 70s up around Raleigh. As you can see, this storm has been very slow moving, of anywhere from 3 to 5 miles per hour, dropping plenty of rainfall over North Carolina tonight and heading into Virginia and the Delmarva.
The National Weather Desk.
Since Debby made landfall on Monday, the major concern for most impacted areas has been the flooding. Emily Gracie sat down with an expert from Climate Central to hear about the research that has been done linking these slow-moving tropical systems with climate change.
What we know about climate change is a couple different things. One, you get more rainfall in a warming atmosphere anyway. The more that the atmosphere warms up, they can hold on to more moisture. The other thing that we know is that when you have these exceptionally warm sea surface temperatures, more moisture that makes rainfall goes into the atmosphere. And that then comes down as heavier rainfall events during these tropical systems.
Rapid intensification that seems to happen right before landfall all the time. Can we attribute that to these warmer sea surface temperatures as well?
You can. So it comes down to different atmospheric conditions as well, right? But we've seen it time and time again where a storm either rapidly intensifies as expected, or it even exceeds the forecast from what we anticipated to happen. And we know that in a warming climate, which in turn warms the oceans itself, those warmer waters are fueling that at the sea surface. And then there's also the warmer water that comes from underneath. So when it's upwelling, you still have warm water that's feeding these storms. And if it's out in the Atlantic, it's something to look at on satellite, but especially when it's as close as it is to landfall, that's more rain that's coming down. That's bigger impacts in terms of wind. And those are real life impacts for where you live, your property, and your loved ones.
I'm curious if any research has been done on movement, because that's part of this huge concern here with Debby is the slow movement. So can that be attributed at all to climate change?
There are some studies out there that have linked climate change to slower moving storms, slower moving tropical systems in general. And the slower a storm moves, obviously, as it sits, and if it's still close to those exceptionally warm waters, be it the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic in the case of Debby, that in turn just continues to feed the atmosphere an abundance of moisture to create these excessive rainfall events.
And NOAA has released its annual high tide flooding outlook for the next year. They predict less high tide flooding along the United States coast as El Nino conditions switch into La Nina. NOAA predicts the U.S. will see a median range of 4 to 8 high tide flood days. Communities along the Pacific Islands and the western Gulf Coast are expected to experience the most high tide flood days. Thanks to sea level rise, it no longer takes severe weather to cause coastal flooding. Firefighters continue to battle the park fire, which is burning in Northern California. Right now, it's 34% contained, and it's taking boots on the ground and in the air to slowly get the flames under control. Christina Mendez has more.
Located in Missoula, Montana, Neptune Aviation is contracted through the state of California to come and help when these massive fires pop up.
We're flying 6 to 8 hours a day consecutively on these fires. So some really long, hard days. Luckily for our crews, they get at least 1 day of rest every week.
And those are just in-air hours. According to Combrick, these pilots average anywhere from 12 to 14 hours a day during fire season due to travel between the hotel and airport and hours spent on the ground. Our
pilots are highly trained, highly experienced guys, most of them with, on average, I would say 10 to 15 years of commercial flying experience before they even come to us. And it takes about, 5 to 8 years for them to essentially become the pilot in command of the aircraft. So
even after all those years of work and experience with flying, pilots still have to deal with the high intensity and stress that comes with the job.
Flying has to be second nature. Flying the airplane is just a small ingredient. Being able to sit around at hours and hours, if not days on end, not flying to, getting a fire call, and within 15 minutes, we're loading retardant and airborne to, unknown destination.
In Wisconsin, officials are working to slow the spread of aquatic invasive species. Designated sites are monitored for plants and animals that could be harmful to the environment. Eric Peterson has the details.
At the end of a pier at the Asylum Bay boat launch, Chris Acey fishes for an unwanted invader in the waters of Lake Winnebago in Oshkosh.
Here in the Winnebago system, one of the things that we're looking for is this plant called Eurasian water milfoil. This plant can grow up to 23 feet long, which is the length of about a school bus, and it gets wrapped up around our boat props, around our fishing line.
One pier over, half of a shell from a dead zebra mussel lies in the Tuesday morning sun.
At each site across the state, we're looking for different kinds of invasive species. Sometimes they're shoreline plants, maybe things like purple loosestrife or Phragmites. Sometimes they're things that are in the water that we want to keep a close eye on.
Acey says when it comes to slowing the spread of unwanted plants and animals, people play an important role.
And we're actually having great success with keeping invasive species out of a lot of different waterways. There's only about 10% of Wisconsin's lakes that have an invasive species. So what we're trying to do is find a species before it becomes established in a lake. So if we find that place where it's first getting introduced, we can catch it before it has a big impact.
Every summer, whitefish reels people in to the Great Lakes, but declining numbers in the whitefish harvest have some people concerned. Meteorologist Trevor Robideau has more on the status of the whitefish.
Fishtown is one of many places in northern Michigan that rely on the common Great Lakes whitefish for their culture. Whether it be for tourism, restaurants, or recreation, this species of fish has been a staple of northern Michigan for decades. But data shows an alarming trend.
Since the 90s, we've seen some of the juvenile whitefish production kind of go down. So whitefish live out in the summer and in the fall in the deeper waters, and they come into a little bit shallower waters during the late fall, usually November and into December for spawning. And we just haven't seen the recruitment and the spawning that we have had in the past.
Some scientists and biologists like Mark Ebener, who worked for Michigan State University for years, believes the heart of the problem lies with the invasive quagga and zebra mussels that have invaded our waters.
What we think is largely what has happened is the presence of dracaenid mussels, zebra and quagga mussels, have overall reduced productivity in the very nearshore areas where whitefish spawn, as So there just is not enough food for larval fish.
Ebener says this, combined with climate change and warming waters, has meant fisheries simply cannot supply the amount of whitefish to meet the demand set decades ago.
I know fish wholesale dealers in Mackinac City, they have restaurants that buy 200 pounds of whitefish fillets a day in the summertime right now. They got to come up with minimum 400 pounds a day just for one restaurant. They're supplying fish all over northern Michigan and the UP, right? There's just not enough fish these days to fill that market demand.
DNR Fisheries and Little Traverse Bay Ottawa Indians are searching for temporary solutions, but only time will tell if they are effective.
And time now for a short break, but let's first soar over beautiful Montana.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. A lot of temperatures in the 70s for highs today. We do have some 80s and even getting into the 90s in a few spots, but a little bit of rain across the area. A lot more rain, though, to the far east as Debby passes by to our east. A lot of us are going to be dry on Friday. Highs in the 70s and 80s across most of the Midwest. 69 there in Minneapolis. And by the time that we get into your Saturday, great for most of us. A little wet in Wichita, but the rest of us, fantastic for the start of the weekend.
Well, a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchet. Look at our forecast today across the region. Of course, starting off those warm temperatures. The afternoon, it'll be the 90s to low 100s. Dallas 102. Feels hotter with the humidity. Maybe a lucky little shower thunderstorm in North Texas. Otherwise, really not much rain across the region. And then here we have Friday. May start the day with a few showers and storms across Oklahoma. Also notice the cooler temperatures, Oklahoma City to Amarillo. Everyone else looking at 90s to around 100 degrees Friday. Shower storm near Austin to San Antonio.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Thunderstorms starting to bubble and brew out west from the Continental Divide and the Cascades all the way into the Four Corners region. That can spell trouble this time of year because these storms tend to be heavy on the lightning and unfortunately light on the precipitation. Big lid of high pressure keeping things hot all the way into California and Oregon. Air quality issues as the wildfires continue to put out smoke in the PNW. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Debby's downpours continued in the Myrtle Beach area Wednesday. Tropical storm rainfall caused this pond to run over. And this hummingbird braved the weather to get a treat. Here's lightning that was captured near Cincinnati Tuesday night. And this deer cooled off with a swim in Alabama's Lake Martin Wednesday morning.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Students are gearing up for school, and for some, that means football preseason. Meteorologist Matt Gunn has a reminder about how to stay safe when practicing in extreme heat.
If you don't follow these tips, you could have some cramps while you're out practicing during the next few weeks. So a good tip to keep in mind is to drink plenty of fluids, especially water, before practice, during practice, and after you get done practicing during the day. If you don't do that, you could run the risk of having a heat stroke or even suffering heat exhaustion. If you have more fatigue than usual, the best tip to give yourself is to give a little bit more extra rest during the day and after practice. I'm meteorologist Matt Gunn reporting.
I wasn't.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. Make it a great Thursday. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.